Glimmerglass is a line of diffusion filters that produces a soft, clean halation around practical and specular light sources, whilst keeping an apparent sharpness on the overall image. On close-ups, the apparent sharpness of fine detail is kept as the effect of the filter gently lowers contrast, softly rolling into the shadow area. This low contrast effect moderately mutes bright colours. This makes the lower end of the Glimmerglass diffusion line produce a non-destructive or invasive look, giving a look on modern lenses of a softer, hazy coating that is a mark of older lenses, which often lightly desaturates the image. Even at heavier densities, the filter never becomes overpowerful in its spread of halation. The Glimmerglass series of filters also has an added benefit of sparkling when viewed. This can add reassurance to your talent when shooting beauty, that your attention is fully concentrated on how they look. The new Pearlescent line of diffusion filters has been primarily designed to control the sharp, crisp images that today's high-resolution cameras and lenses produce. Even at its lowest strength, the 1/8, the components that go to make up a Pearlescent get to work on producing a lush, velvety look to the image. As we move on to the 1/4 density, this rich, lush, glamorous look of a pearlescent clearly takes effect, cleaning out the fine detail in the skin whilst an apparent sharpness remains in the eyes. This glamorous look is the distinctive feel that the pearlescents bring to the image. It is also worth noting how the halation effect on the Caucasian skin tone in the wide shot is more apparent than on the Afro-American skin tone. However, the end result on both skin tones on the close-up is a pleasing, beautiful skin complexion. ProMist filters still continue to offer today's cinematographer using modern cameras a beautiful, simple and effective look. Offering a timeless glow, ProMist, along with its darker version, Black ProMist, still remains in the minds of many cinematographers as the de facto diffusion reference when one comes to considering adding diffusion to an image. The ProMist range of filters is at home on film as it is on digital cameras. Its halation is more prominent than pearlescent, easily seen in the practical and specular light sources. In the stronger densities, it is clearly apparent how the ProMist diffused effect reduces the skin tone shimmer, pleasantly diluting both skin tones' values. Our new Satin range of filters offers an agreeable constant spill of halation across the filter set's densities, never overpowering the image. This effect, combined with a subtle optical resolution reduction element, makes this set of filters effective on two fronts. The look of Satins is simple and understated, producing a delicate look of a not too overly filtered image. This is evident in the control of fine detail information, where the Satins keep eyes and hair sharp in the close-ups, with a delicate reduction in contrast. By keeping a watchful eye on the halation during the wide shots, you will see that it never increases, keeping a constant background atmosphere, with the fine detail resolution becoming ever so slightly softer, without ever breaking up the image. This combination delivers new levels of consistency and control to cinematographers wishing to influence the look of modern lenses. Black Diffusion Effects is a distinctive yet simple diffusion effect filter, refined in its ability to reduce sharp fine detail and produce a minimal effect on practical and bounced highlights. The Black Diffusion Effect's look is apparent by its seemingly non-destructive effect. This means that any reduction in colour saturation is therefore kept to a minimum, keeping as much contrast in the image, so helping to keep an apparent sharpness in the overall image. When used on close-ups, facial features such as eyes and hair remain sharp on the focal plane, while finer, unwanted skin detail smoothly blends away. Contrast reduction is kept in check by the black element embedded in the filter, which also performs the dual role of controlling the optical softening element from overly blurring specular highlights, which might otherwise cause stronger halation. The distinctive look of black nets is that of a classical softening with minimal halation. Care is required when using any front-mounted net, as the weave may become apparent if shot under certain circumstances, these predominantly being wide focal lengths with a small iris setting. Other side effects may be light sources being caught or dragged when the camera is panned or moved. In this wide-angle image, the practical light is showing signs of irregular flare. This aside, the look is special, even if you only get to use it when shooting still images. It is easy to see why black pro mists had been such a success over the past 30-odd years. Its unique lowering of contrast, combined with a gauzy, painterly halation, adds a twist on the standard pro mist halation spill effect. Even at its lowest density, it delivers an effective and distinctive increase in the halation, which adds a pleasing dab of warmth that is not transported onto the skin tone values. This becomes more apparent when you use densities of 1/4 and above. In the heavier densities, the spill is quite aggressive from the practical light, with the warm tone becoming more apparent. Yet the subtle but effective look still continues to make the black Promist a staple filter and de facto look for many cinematographers in the digital world. Our new black satin range of filters offers the cinematographer two major benefits when using modern camera sensor technology in lenses: an agreeable constant spill of halation across the filter set's densities, never overpowering the image, combined with a subtle optical resolution reduction element that makes this set of filters effective on two fronts. The look of black satins is simple and understated, producing a rounded, delicate, veiled atmosphere of a not too overly filtered image. This is evident in the control of fine detail information, where the black satins keep eyes and hair sharp in the close-ups, with a delicate reduction in contrast. By keeping a watchful eye on the halation during the wide shots, you will see this never increases. However, it does deliver a warmth to the halation, maintaining a constant background atmosphere. With each density's increase, the fine detail resolution becomes ever so slightly softer, without ever breaking up the image. This combination delivers new levels of consistency and control to cinematographers wishing to influence the look of modern lenses. Bronze glimmerglass is subtler than the name might suggest at first, producing a clean, warm halation around practical and specular light sources. The bronze glimmerglass is like a regular glimmerglass, understated and refined in its visual delivery of glimmer. By adding a warm hue, not red, into the skin tones and keeping the image's apparent sharpness intact, the effect of this glimmered tonal warmth adds a new dimension into the shadow area on both skin tone types, blending shadows on the dark skin tone like makeup foundation, and on the white skin tone blending out unwanted reddish blemishes. It is worth noting that the overall effect of bronze glimmerglass will also mute all colours with the effect that the diffusion creates. Gold diffusion effects offers both an optical softness, which helps in reducing the sharpness associated with today's modern lenses, plus a golden warmth which wraps itself around the image, introducing a slight reduction in contrast which is very pleasing on darker skin tones. Practical light sources and skin shine seemingly unduly moved by the filter's introduction until the heavier densities are introduced. As with all diffusion effects range, facial features like eyes keep an apparent sharpness, producing a very pleasing look to beauty shots. The lowering of contrast affects the shadow areas without producing a halation from specular or practical light sources until we get to the very heavy end of the range. Even then, its effect is extremely refined and non-invasive. One can also see the filter's added warmth in the grayscale on the wide shot. Warm black Pro-Mist, when initially viewed in this warm section of the film, seemed to introduce an alarming red warm hue to the image. But as your eyes adjust to this look, one begins to feel that the original unfiltered image on the left-hand side of the screen is unduly cool. The byproduct of our brains compensating for the warmth of the image we are most concentrating on. Both skin tones used in this test seem to benefit from this added warmth, either by the added warmth introduced into the shadow area or by how the skin tone detail is smoothed out by the diffusion's added warmth. By infusing the halation's dispersion with this added warmth, a rich glow is produced, which is kept in check by the filter's black element by controlling the lowering of contrast and spill. The result being for some a more pleasing effect on darker skin tones, where otherwise the standard black Pro-Mist might be considered to be too flat. Warm Pro-Mist, in comparison to warm black Pro-Mist, delivers a dreamier warmth to the image. The warmth is distributed evenly without the interference of the black element, which can be clearly seen in how the halation responds to the practical light source compared to the warm black Pro-Mist. This cleaner, warmer lowering of contrast and halation spill is stronger on lighter skin tone, but is absorbed to give a pleasing effect on our darker skin tone without so much apparent halation. The added warmth in our diffusion lines is an important factor to consider if your control of lighting environment or equipment is limited when shooting darker skin tones, as the added warmth of warm diffusers is evident to see. Digital diffusion effects introduces a slight reduction in contrast across its range, but since this is a very fine optical softening filter, it does not introduce a halation effect. This is because the acid etching in the glass is an extremely delicate way to bend light across the surface of an image. It also reduces stray light's ability to scatter or cause halation, which is commonly associated with the elements enclosed in a mist-type filter. The subtleness of this process means that the colour chart is also not unduly washed out. Where the filter really gets to work is on fine detail resolution, such as wrinkles and lines on the skin. It also doesn't overpower the overall image with a blurry, out-of-focus look, maintaining an apparent sharpness. This means that even stronger densities can be used without the look of the filter ever overpowering the final result. Soft Effects uses a different approach for dealing with how it reduces the sharpness and resolution of an image. This is by suspending differing strength of mini oval lenslets within the laminated glass. The resulting image is affected in a slightly different way to how the acid etching of a digital diffusion filter works. Due to the size in which the internal lenses can be produced, the light that is bent on these internal lenses has more overall effect on the recorded image. Therefore, the softness is more widely spread over the image, meaning that resolution is reduced to a greater degree at a lower density. The physical effect of this process also means that the spread of bent light from the lenslets in the heavier densities produces a slight halation around the practical and specular light sources as well. The warm element introduced in the warm soft effects is a constant 812 density, as with the warm black promist and warm promist. And the warm soft effects uses exactly the same filtering index as the original soft effects set. Therefore, it spreads and bends light in exactly the same manner. It is the introduction of the warm 812 element that adds to the skin tones, and in the heavier densities adds warmth to the glow from the practical light in shot. The design concept behind all three of the warm diffusion filters is to enhance the beauty of the filters even in unflattering lighting environments on skin tones. The HDTV effects range of filters produces a very inconspicuous effect on the images as it works at reducing both contrast and resolution. The contrast reduction constituent causes no flare from practical or specular highlights, though mutes the overall colour intensity in the image, whilst the resolution reducing element does not overly blur the image, keeping what seems an apparent sharpness in all the important places. For example, the outline of objects and on the face, eyes and lips. One might say that it just looks like a slightly older lens has been used. The Soft Effects Ultra Contrast combination of filters were born out of a request by a DOP who required a range of filters to work up and down the scales of resolution reduction, in the form of soft effects, versus minimal flaring contrast reduction control, the ultra contrast. This way, he could choose which element he wanted to fine-tune in or out from shot to shot, and focal length and location variances. This filter range concept is very intuitive, as the ultra contrast filter doesn't affect resolution and the soft effect has minimal effect on the contrast and only produces halation on practical and specular light sources at the heavier densities. Therefore, neither effect overpowers the other, leaving each density in each type of filter to do its own job. The smoke filter is a true design of filtration magic. Created to add atmospheric ambience to a scene, it truly delivers from a flat piece of glass a smoke effect into a location environment. This simple yet effective filter should not be underestimated. How much of our cinematographic viewing memory is wrapped up in deep, rich, smoke-filled environments? One automatically thinks of smoke as adding atmosphere. Now one just has to reach for a smoke filter if one wishes to add an atmosphere, rather than having to wait for the effects team. This filter set was born out of a DOP's request to combine two of his favourite classical diffusion filters, being Soft Effects, which is used in this set as the base optical resolution reduction effect, combined with the Black Promist range, allowing for the ability to increase the control of practical and specular halation and contrast lowering effect in the image. Both elements come into play in a complementary manner to produce a classic diffusion look.